Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have a great entrepreneur on the show today. This is a gentleman, you've probably seen his product everywhere. I mean, I was just in Whole Foods the other day. I ran into the product. People were grabbing it off the shelf. His name is Mr. Greg Vetter, and he is the oldest brother, of course, and CEO of Tessemae. And you probably use Tessemae. I mean, we have it at the house. I mean, they're the #1 organic salad dressing in America. It's such a delight to have Greg on the show. Greg, welcome to the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wow, it's great to have you. I mean, we've been using your salad dressing. Everybody knows that watches the show. My wife and I, we're health nuts, and we love making salads. And it's just so great. You have so many different kinds and so many different dressings and flavors. But let's get into it. Let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet to get started. Tell us about Tessemae, and then we're gonna rock and roll here.
So I grew up eating this dressing that my mom made for me as a kid, and we didn't really think anything of it. And then after I moved out, I came home for lunch, and this 2-liter bottle of salad dressing was missing from my house. And I tracked down a neighbor that had broken into my house to take it. And I thought, if a man is going to steal another man's salad dressing, then I probably need to bottle that and take it to the world. So that was in 2009. And since that point, we built out manufacturing. We have 3 manufacturing plants. We're bi-coastal. We're in all the major retailers, and just fighting the fight, I guess.
I love it. It's a great entrepreneurial story. Of course, you've been able to develop a great business. You've got a great team around you. And of course, your product, when you go look at the reviews and you look at the taste and you look at the all, organic ingredients, it's absolutely a powerful story. When we think about what you do, Greg, as an entrepreneur, how important is the team that you've put together at Tessemae to get you from point A to Z?
I think it's everything. I think when you're an entrepreneur and you start off in the beginning, you're trying to convince people to come on to your journey and no one believes you. They all think you're crazy. So anybody that you can convince at that point may be questionable, I guess, in the grand scheme of things outside of your family. But when we really started hitting our stride was when we were bringing in really great people that were really great culture fits, but then also could just lead their own departments without micromanagement. And so the team has kind of been everything.
I love it. And of course, you're known for these amazing flavors, these amazing dressings. When we think about it, how does the expansion of the product line look to you? You had the original that someone stole and you tracked them down, because it was such a great dressing. But how has that evolved throughout the years?
So we started with lemon garlic. We tried to get that in all of the stores on the East Coast. And in the beginning, everybody was like, we're not bringing one dressing into all of our stores. And so then one of the guys, Matt Ray from Whole Foods, was like, you could make different flavors and we could carry them for you. And we're like, you're a genius. And so then we started developing products, and our original lemon garlic was the gold standard. And then we just really listened to our customers, and whatever they suggested, for the most part, we would at least try and see if it was a winner. And then we really kind of came into our own when we invented the first clean, organic ranch dressing that was dairy-free, that tasted great. That lit the world on fire.
I love it. I love it. And for the entrepreneurs watching the show, Greg, sometimes they hit a pothole in the road. Sometimes they hit a challenge in their journey. Maybe based on your experience, you could share some insight into the younger entrepreneurs watching the show about what it takes to get through a tough time as an entrepreneur.
One, I would say read books. I think so much of what we go through, we think is individual to just our experience. Most likely another entrepreneur has gone through something very similar. Maybe it's not an entrepreneur. Maybe it's a leader of, a biography of an inventor or a president or a general, whatever it is. So I would say read, one, to get more perspectives. And then 2, don't be afraid to ask for help and advice. because, when I first started, I thought I had all the answers. I obviously did not. And when you started getting into the meat and potatoes of people and using your network, you really figured out that, they're going to be able to put some ideas in your head that you may not have, and that's going to solve the problem.
I love it. That's great advice. And let's pull it back a little bit more, because this is very interesting, because the multiple flavors you have. How do you come up with a flavor? Do you go into the kitchen and you start playing with it and you do taste testing, or who's the one that's deciding on the flavors? How does all that work?
So originally it was just me and my brothers. And then our first kind of interesting creation, we were trying to make ketchup, and we completely messed up, and we made this magnificent barbecue sauce. And so that was our first toe dip into condiments. And so from there, it was really just monitoring the customer service emails and seeing what people were suggesting. And then as social media got more popular, we would run these kind of flavor contests. What's the next ranch dressing we should make? What's the next flavor we should come out with? And if we saw some good ideas, then we would test them out. And then if they turned out and met our standard, we would launch it.
Yeah, I love it. And of course, you've become very well known for listening to your customers, and you have your ear to the ground about what they're saying and what they're thinking and what they're wanting. And you've been able to really give the customers, your rabid fan base, the incredible flavors that they love. Where did this come from your standpoint? How did you really understand to listen to the customers throughout the years?
Well, I think one of our core values is treat the customer how you want to be treated, because it's us. And so when you use your product all the time, you start mixing flavors and coming up with random ideas, and you just listen, because you never know where the next great idea is going to come from. I mean, we're a great example. No one ever thought we were going to make it 2 weeks in the salad dressing business, and here we are almost 13 years later. So, leave no stone unturned and always keep your ear to the ground.
Yeah, that's awesome. How hard was it at the beginning to take this, secret recipe of your mother's and then take it and put it into sort of a large batch to start, producing it on a mass scale?
It was very hard. We tried to find co-packers that would meet it to our quality standards, and nobody wanted to do that. Everybody wanted to use citric acid and refined sugar and thickening agents. And so we literally had to start our own manufacturing facility. I had to leverage my house, my dad's house. We had no manufacturing experience. We literally got an SBA loan for a piston filler, and then we just committed to figuring it out. And so we did it by hand for a long time, and then we just kind of took that mental process of making it in small batches. And we said, all right, well, if we can do it in 5 gallons, can we do it in 50? If we can do it in 50, can we do it in 250? And so we just kept that process going, and here we are.
Yeah, I love it. And for the entrepreneurs watching the show, I want to take you back just a little bit, Greg, because it's a fascinating story. For the younger entrepreneurs that have a product and they want to get it into the big box store, take yourself back. What was that first meeting like with, the first big box that you did business, with? How freaked out were you going in, or how confident were you going in? And what was that sort of first scenario like?
So I think the first key before we really got in was I needed to prove whether or not it had legs or not. And so I just was cold calling the local Annapolis Whole Foods nonstop until someone would take a meeting with me. And then I walked in without a bottle. We weren't even a brand yet. And I had my mom make this dressing and put it on romaine lettuce in a Tupperware container. And the guy's like, what is this? And I'm like, listen, man, it's lunchtime. This is a famous dressing. I brought you a salad. And he looks at me like I'm crazy. He takes this piece of wet lettuce out of the Tupperware container, licks the dressing off, and goes, wow, you have something really special here. You need to call a regional office. And so at that point, I had validated it in enough places where I'm like, it's a burn the ships mentality. I'm walking in with 100% confidence, and I'm not taking no for an answer. We got a lot of no's, but I did not stop fighting the fight. Let's put it like that.
I love it so much. You went in with some Tupperware with some wilted lettuce that had the great dressing. He licked it off. Boom, there you are. Now,
yep.
Everybody on the show here that watches the show, a lot of the people that watch the show, they watch Shark Tank, of course. And, Mr. Wonderful Kevin O'Leary's known for doing these these deals where he takes a little piece of the action. It's called a royalty deal. I hope your mother got a little royalty deal out of this with you guys.
Of course. She still answers. She works part-time. She answers all our customer service. So if you get a bad customer service experience, it's her. So you can just reply back to her and talk some trash.
I love it so much. Now, does she go into the bottles, many years later, and she tastes it, and she's the one that tells you, hey, Greg and sons, this is really the original flavor, and I'm so happy that we've been able to keep the original flavor by doing, millions of bottles of the dressing?
Yeah, so we have a tasting panel, and it's me, our chef Kristen Tessemae, who's our head of product, my brother Matt, my wife, and then my mom. And so any new product we come out with, we taste it and we see what everybody's reactions are. And for lemon garlic, we still have her make the original batch and use that as a baseline to see whether or not the quality standard is close enough. So we still do that all the time.
That's and this is a great story. So for entrepreneurs watching the show, you need to have a story that resonates to the buyers. You need to have a story that really makes sense. And in this particular case, this is a homegrown family story that everyone can get their arms around. And that's one of the, reasons why Greg was able to open up the doors to the big box stores. And then he just knocked it down because once they tasted it, it was game over. Let's talk about your team, because you have an incredible team. You have an incredible distribution network. You're all around the country. When you look for someone, Greg, to join the team, what's the thing you're looking for? Is it passion, commitment, experience, honesty? What are the things that sort of go through your head when you're hiring?
Yeah, I think character. Character is very high up there. I think mental strength, endurance, being strong-willed, being able to kind of raise your hand and say what your idea is stupid and I don't like it. And then just the culture piece. Our team, we actually love spending time with each other. That hasn't always been the case, right? A lot of times you'll hire somebody because their resume is wonderful and they come to the team and they're not a great fit, but they're executing. That can actually be obviously cancerous to the culture. And so the team we have now, they're just really competent in their capacity of what they're doing. But then they're also just great people that if they make a mistake, they're going to raise their hand. They're going to say, it's me. And then you just have faith in their overall ability to be a good person and make good decisions.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. There's a question that came from one of the viewers regarding shelf space. When you're in the big box stores, there's this battle and this fight over shelf space, so over sort of where your product gets placed. How does that all work out? Maybe you could just give us a little high level look for the entrepreneurs watching the show that don't quite understand that.
It is a fight. You need to have the data to prove that you're worth that real estate. And so for us, it was always, we want to get in the door and be able to fight the fight. And then the product will improve over time in terms of shelf space or the amount of SKUs on the shelf. And so then that just goes back to having a quality product. So, it is a battle. The big guys do have an advantage for that prime shelf space, but it's a fight that you have to fight. And if the product's good enough, it'll work out in the end.
Yeah, I love it. And of course, throughout the years, you've learned so much to become the CEO, the oldest brother and CEO, of course. But let's talk about mentorship, because there had to have been some influences in your life along the path to bringing this company to where it's at. Can you look back at any moments of your life, whether it was through sports or education or mentorship, that really had an impact on you to become the CEO that you've become?
A lot of people have a great story of someone that just they were able to latch on to that was like a wonderful guide for them. I unfortunately did not have that. I learned a lot about life and experience in sports through bad coaches and bad advisors. And so I've gotten to this point basically through reading a lot, baptism by fire, and trusting my gut. And I'm still out there, I'm like on a mentor dating website, still waiting for my, knight in shining armor to come in and mentor me to the promised land. But I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, that's funny. And I love that so much, Greg, because it's interesting. Sometimes you get bad advice as an entrepreneur. And the key to being an entrepreneur, as you know better than anybody, is you have to learn from that. And at the end of the day, move forward, kind of lick your wounds, brush yourself off and keep on moving. And that's what entrepreneurship is all about. Let's talk about it just for a minute. I know you've only cut out a certain amount of time. I mean, what you've done is phenomenal with the business. When we think about it and we think about working for yourself and we think about getting up every day and we think about your why, what is the why? Is it to continue to make an impact, to continue to take, some of the things that you've been able to do in the business and give back to the community? Is it to put out the best possible product, to make sure people, remain healthy when they eat their salads by having this organic dressing that they love? What's the why when you get up in the morning, Greg?
I think the why has evolved over time, and I think it will for people during their journey. I've been doing this for 13 years, so I have 4 kids now, and I'm in my late 30s. In the beginning, it was I wanted to change my own stars. I'm a middle-class kid from public school, and I didn't really know how I could kind of change my financial or business or entrepreneurial stars, and so I was willing to just kind of risk it all to do that. Then it evolved into, wow, this product's really magnificent. This can be, a guiding light for people's health if we can deliver from a manufacturing perspective. So then it was really bringing the greatest, cleanest, healthiest, greatest tasting product to the market, because it was literally a way for people to eat healthy and it tasted great. It has now probably morphed into leading by example for future entrepreneurs so that we're not burning out and not starting families and not living our life to the fullest and not looking back 13 years later and go, wow, I just wasted 13 years. And so now it's probably this component of, health and fitness and mental health and children and kind of building out the next generation. And then we also have a foundation that goes to end food deserts. Because again, it comes back to food as fuel. And if you simplify food, you can amplify life. That's one of our taglines. And so it's morphed over time. So those are the series of whys over 13 years.
I love it. Before I let you go, you mentioned you have some children.
Yeah.
What have you taken from your entrepreneurial journey that you want to get across to your children? Is it that you want them to learn to have a can-do attitude? Is it you want them to learn to, approach things in a powerful way and go get it? Or what types of things have you brought over from your business acumen that you're trying to teach your children? You and your wife are trying to teach your children.
I mean, it's just about goal setting and not taking no for an answer and then working hard and executing a plan. So anything we do, it's whether it's trying out for a sports team or reading a book or doing a test, are you preparing to succeed? And are you putting in the work to succeed? And if you don't succeed, being introspective and looking back and saying, well, why wasn't I successful? What can I improve so that the next time I do this, which I will do it another time, that I can be successful?
I love it. Great, great advice to young people. And of course, for people watching the show, next time you're at one of the big box stores, reach out, grab a bottle of Tessemae. You're going to be having a salad dressing that's really going back many, many years. That's the original salad dressing that Greg's mother made. And it's just a great story. I love it so much, Greg. And don't forget, Google Greg. He has a great TED Talk out there and so many other things that he's done. Amazing, amazing journey, Greg. I'm so happy to have had you on the show today. And thanks so much for coming on the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Thank you so much for having me.